Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Duke It Out Wrestling Podcast, where I, Duke, talk about the events from the past, present, or future in the world of professional wrestling. Now, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't exactly planning on doing an episode of the podcast today, and like a couple of the latest ones, this is going to be shorter than most podcast lengths, especially since I'm doing this one solo, but I really wanted to just do an episode of the podcast because there was some wrestling news that happened earlier today that definitely shocked me, but I was already in the works of working on a list video, and I'd already chosen a topic for the weekly We Need to Talk About video. So I was debating on doing two We Need to Talk About videos in 1 week, but I figured with this topic, I might as well just do a podcast about it, just do unscripted, just unfiltered thoughts right out of the gate. What I'm thinking of the specific wrestling news, and that, of course, is involving the Bella Twins. If you haven't seen any reports earlier today, Nikki and Brie announced on their podcast that they will be leaving WWE, and the main thing with them leaving WWE is that they will no longer be having the Bella name, and they will now be known as Brie and Nikki Garcia. Now, so for the Garcia twins, all is up in the air for them. They could continue the businesses that they've been thriving in currently, and I think there was a wine business that they had started, or more. I don't know if that was more so particularly Brie, but they could either go into another form of media field, or it is also very likely that they could sign with AEW, which would be insane because I actually never really thought about the potential of the Bellas or the Garcias signing with AEW. And it's more funny because as wrestling fans, you would know that the Bella Twins have their good amount of fans, and there are plenty of people that love Nikki and Brie. But there are also plenty of people that despise the Bella Twins and think they are one of the worst women's wrestlers of all time. And with my opinion, I'm kind of like in the middle. Like I've never really full blown hated them. There have definitely been the occasions where I've been so fucking annoyed with them, but I never really got to the point where I thought they were like one of the worst of all time. And them in AEW, I don't necessarily know if it would work, especially because since Nikki and Brie have already previously retired from the ring, and especially from Brie, there were some really scary instances with a botched suicide dive and some kicks that legitimately knocked out Liv Morgan. So it's really hard to think about because I do think it would be kind of interesting, and more so especially because of the Outcast stable going on right now in AEW with Saraya, Toni Storm, and now recent member Ruby Soho. And it's more so focused on its former women from WWE. So it kind of would make sense if the Garcias would sign with AEW and then join the Outcast, but I could also see them trying to become baby faces in the feud. But honestly, we know AEW crowds, the Bellas would not work as baby faces, especially right out of the gate. Even in their debut, they might get a good amount of cheers, but within the next week, they're gonna get booed, and they're gonna get booed bad if that ends up being the case. We don't actually know if they're actually going to be signing with AEW. They just announced on the podcast that they are officially leaving WWE and that they're no longer going to be known as Brie or Nikki Bella. And they even acknowledged a thank you to it was more so Brie that said thank you to Brie Bella, the character, just because of what Brie Bella had brought to her career and her life. And I thought that was a really cool acknowledgement to at least acknowledge the appreciation that the company has brought. And more so, especially because over the past few months, the Bellas have really been acknowledging their frustrations with WWE and have really been going hard on them on social media, especially since the Raw 25th anniversary, the 25th Raw anniversary show that was back in January, because I know that they were sponsored for the show, because I know there were some commercials and some tweets that were announcing like, hey, the Bellas are going to be on the 25th anniversary of Monday Night Raw. And they were put up on all the pictures with all the legends that were going to be appearing there. And apparently they were backstage for the 25th anniversary of Raw, but there was apparently nothing planned for them really, or nothing they could think of for them. So they just kind of sat around there apparently, and that really did frustrate them. And now there are some people that could think, yeah, it's the Bella Twins. They haven't done much, so of course they haven't done as much in recent years. So it makes sense why there might not be as room for the Bella Twins on the 25th anniversary show. But also they had recently been inducted into the Hall of Fame, so that also brings a lot of understanding to the frustrations of Brie and Nikki. And I don't know how frustrated they actually were with it. I haven't listened to many podcasts with them, and I've seen just a couple of live stream clips of them talking about WWE and maybe a couple of tweets, but I know for sure that they have been angry with the company, and it does make a lot of sense, and especially with the recent allegations that have been going out against Vince McMahon, it wouldn't surprise me if they had known plenty of those incidences from Vince McMahon, or God forbid, if they had to suffer from any of that themselves. I am so sorry for them if they had to. But they clearly had their anger toward WWE, and what better of a way to get back at them than to sign with AEW? Now, do I think Tony Khan would sign them? Part of me says yes, and part of me says no, because there is a part of me that thinks like, yeah, it would be a big draw for the ratings. Total Bellas was a very big show for a while. Total Divas was a big show, and it could bring in a lot of new viewers, and it would be, in a business standpoint, very good for the company. But I don't necessarily know how fans would react to it, because AEW is a very passionate fan base, and a lot of independent wrestling fans are definitely more so against what the Bellas could represent in wrestling. And I definitely will acknowledge that they definitely worked hard to try and advance any of their ring work. And I think Nikki Bella definitely advanced in the ring throughout the years than Brie did, which is more so crazy because Brie is married to one of the greatest pro wrestlers of all time in Bryan Danielson. But they both were terrific heels. They knew how to keep everyone captivated with their promos or any of their twin magic heel work. And so regardless of anyone's opinion on them, they are one of the most memorable pieces in WWE's women's wrestling history. And they are Hall of Famers, and it would be a huge draw to AEW. And if they really did want to come back and try to prove more of what they could bring to the ring, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I definitely would be very curious to see how everything would go down, because yeah, it's a really weird situation to think about, because honestly, I wouldn't have expected one of the potential new signings for AEW in 2023 to be the Bella Twins. And it's both a good and bad thing. Because like I said, I haven't been a huge Bella Twins fan over the years. They have had some good moments, a few really good matches, especially from Nikki, but I'm not sure how beneficial it would be for them to join AEW, especially because the beginning of AEW's women's division was also wanting to focus a lot more on women's wrestling in Japan and bringing a lot of people from Stardom and other wrestling promotions, but it just kind of seemed to simmer down after the pandemic, which is very fair, but I don't know if they wanted to try and get back to that kind of a focus, because them signing the Bellas, like I said, they are kind of an opposite of what AEW fans are the kind of wrestlers that AEW fans really, really do love, who are very beloved in the independents. And Nikki and Brie Bella, they've been called the Kardashians of the WWE, mainly because they had a reality show on the E! Network. But I think it would be, in a business sense, beneficial for the company, but I don't think it would really last too long. I think if they just wanted to go there for a few month run, I think it would be really fun. And if they also wanted to mainly work as managers, I honestly think that would be very, very good for the company because Nikki and Brie are charismatic as hell and they can cut some amazing heel promos and they know how to cut all of the heel manager tactics since they had to do it for themselves throughout their career with the Twin Magic spots. So it would honestly really work. I don't know how active they want to be in the ring since they have previously retired from in-ring competition and Nikki has had some neck issues. So if they wanted to come back as managers, I actually think that would be a really good idea. Or just overall ambassadors for AEW. It could be a really good move for them, especially since Vicky Guerrero apparently is not going to be renewing her AEW contract this year, and she has been a huge part of AEW heels. So I think if Nikki and Brie Garcia tried to develop more into that, it could bring in a lot more advancements for that as well. And I think that would be really good for them because I know AEW heels was starting off really hot, and I know it might have been Brandy that might have been one of the people to start it, but I can't fully remember. But I remember when I was at the All Out Fan Fest, they did a panel for AEW heels, and it was really fun. So I think that would be a really cool add to the company. I obviously, like I said, I think it would be more beneficial for them to be managers and media ambassadors for the company. And I think they would, and I think if they did perform in the ring, it would be better to have it just be like one-off appearances. They might wrestle 2 to 3 times a year. And I think it would just be really good money matches. They could have it either be on Dynamite or on pay-per-view. But yeah, I'm honestly very shocked with this. I wasn't expecting to wake up in the morning and read that the Bella Twins were going to be gone from WWE and that many people are convinced that the Bellas are going to sign with AEW, or now known as the Garcias. It is very interesting. It's very fucking weird, but it's the world of wrestling. We got to stop learning to be surprised at this point. But that was another quick episode of the Duke It Out Wrestling Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening, and please make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, and duke out your opinions below in the comments.